This is Torah in the courts of heaven. Today's Torah portion is Sarah. So it's the life of Sarah, when in actuality the Torah portion begins talking about her death. In the first vignette, I would like to think about the verdict of our appointment. In other words, we all have an appointment with death. We, of course, had an appointment with life, with birth. We don't know when we're going to be born. A person doesn't know when they're going to be born. They don't know the years of their life, the moments of their life. And they, of course, don't know even the death of their life. For even if someone decided that they were going to end their life, then so that you could say, well, they know the date of their death. Well, not even then, because sometimes people aren't even successful in trying to end their life. So there is an appointment, and the Lord has made an appointment with all people that when our life would actually come to an end. But in actuality, our life doesn't end because it goes on. It's simply a transfer of this life into the next life or the life to come. So we begin today in Genesis 23 and verse 1, and it says, Sarah lived 127 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah. So Sarah died in Kirjath Arba, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan, and Abraham came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. And in keeping with the idea of going through the Torah, remembering it as a court system, and so keep in mind how that will be affected today. Sarah fulfilled the destiny prescribed for her. So Genesis 21:6, and Sarah said, God has made me laugh, and all who hear will laugh with me. Sarah became the mother of nations. That was the verdict of her appointment. She was intended by God to be the mother of nations. And of course, she would pass this on to the next person, which would be to her son, Isaac, and of course, Isaac and Rebekah. And it would continue on, and of course, and continue on, and continue on until actually it was fulfilled with Israel becoming a nation and with all the people and the children of Israel. And as believers and followers of Yeshua, we know that we have been grafted into this great promise from God. So the decisions from God are in essence taking form. It says in Genesis 23 verse 4, I am a foreigner or an alien and a visitor among you. Give me property for a burial place among you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. So this is Abraham requesting property to bury his wife Sarah. And he describes himself as a foreigner and an alien, because indeed he didn't come from the land of Canaan. As we know, he came from Ur of the Chaldeans. But even more so, you could look at it as though he's a foreigner and an alien, as he's not of this world, as neither are we. We walk in this world, we will live this life until its fulfillment, but then ultimately we are children of the life of eternal life that God has for us. Genesis 23:5 says, and the sons of Heth answered Abraham, saying to him, hear us, my Lord. You are a mighty prince among us, and his name is honored as Yahweh decided. So this is something I've put in here. His name is honored as Yahweh decided. So that, in other words, you see these people of Heth, these people of Canaan, and how they were honoring Abraham. And this was because God had him to be honored. He could have very easily been an enemy and a person that would have very much difficulty among them, but rather God had him to be honored. So they went on and it says, bury your dead in the choice of our burial places. None of us will withhold you from your burial place, that you may bury your dead. In other words, that Abraham could bury Sarah. So this is the very beginning of the land being given to Abraham, and of course the promise that God had made with Abraham that he would inherit all this land. And not only the land, but he would also have a multitude of people, descendants, that would fulfill and fill up this land. But this was the beginning of that promise. And you'll see what the Bible's talking about here. In Genesis 23:7, then Abraham stood up and bowed himself to the people of the land, the sons of Heth. And he spoke with them, saying, if it is your wish that I bury my dead out of my sight, hear me, and meet with Ephron, the son of Zohar, for me, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he has, which is at the end of his field. Let him give it to me at the full price, as property for a burial place among you. Now Ephron dwelt among the sons of Heth. And Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the presence of the sons of Heth, all who entered at the gate of his city. So it's important we pause here for a moment and mention the fact that he says he met with him at the gate of his city. Because we need to understand that in the ancient times, decisions would be made at city gates. And the elders of the town would meet at the city gates. And so if a stranger or a foreigner was to come into the town, they would of course have to pass through the city gate. So they wouldn't be able to sneak in. Everyone would know that they had come in. And decisions about what would be done with these people and on would be made at the city gate. So we go on, and keeping that in mind, that the city gate is sort of a decision-making place, like a courtroom. And it says in Genesis 23:11, no, my Lord, hear me. I give you the field and the cave that is in it. I give it to you in the presence of the sons of my people. I give it to you. Bury your dead. So right here it's very important, because this Canaanite leader at the city gate is telling Abraham, I'm just going to give you this land. Just take it. It's yours. Well, see, there's a very big problem here, because if someone gives you something, then now it's not right, but they can take it back because it was just given to you. You didn't give anything for it, so they could be, kind of unfairly take it back. But they would be legally able to do that because you didn't purchase whatever it was they gave you. So in this case, it would be the land that Abraham was wanting to purchase. So we go on in verse 12, and it says, then Abraham bowed himself down before the people of the land, and he spoke to Ephron in the hearing of the people of the land, saying. And so you see that he spoke to Ephron, of course, the leader, the one who had the land, but he spoke these words in the hearing of the people of the land. So why is that important? Because he has witnesses, you see. There are witnesses, his own people, Ephron's own people, who would be able to hear what Abraham's saying. And so there would be witnesses to prove, you could say, and there would be justice involved. So if you will give it, please hear me. I will give you money for the field. Take it from me, and I will bury my dead there. And Ephron answered Abraham, saying to him, my Lord, listen to me. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between you and me? So bury your dead. So you see, in actuality, Ephron really did want to get paid. But on the other hand, if he didn't get paid, he knew he could simply take the land back from Abraham, because he only gave it to him, but not as a promise and not with a purchase. But Abraham purchased the land. So it says Abraham listened to the Ephron, and Abraham weighed out the silver for Ephron, which he had named in the hearing of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, currency of the merchants. So the land was purchased, and the possession was sealed with the deed. So all these thousands of years later, you can look back and see that the land truly belonged to Abraham. He purchased it, and even more land would come after that. So we have a clear deed. And what is the deed? The deed is the Word of God, is the Torah. It's written in the Torah, this whole account. So Genesis 23:17 says, "So the field of Ephron, which was in Machpelah, which was before Mamre, the field and the cave, which was in it, and all the trees that were in the field, which were within all the surrounding borders, were deeded to Abraham as a possession in the presence of the sons of Heth, before all who went in the gate of the city." And again, you see the importance of the fact that they mentioned this being done at the gate of the city, the place of decision making, basically the court. Now, there is something very interesting along with this, that we can draw lines directly to the modern state of Israel. Hopefully, you will be able to see a coin called an Agar Rot. And the Agar Rot is simply spelled A-R-O-G-O-T, Agar Rot. And it's basically the dime of Israel right now. And it's worth, and let me spell that again because I might have spelled it wrong the first time. It's A-G-O-R-O-T. In case I misspelled it, I want to make sure you can find that. And the 10 Agar Rot controversy is actually a case that happened back in 1990 when Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat, and if you're old enough, you will remember his name. Otherwise, you can simply Google him. He was the leader of the Palestinian Liberation Organization. He claimed that he was a Palestinian, when in actuality, his roots were Egyptian. So there's one problem there. But that's not the case of the controversy. The controversy is that he looked at the coin, and I'm pretty sure that someone with quite a bit more experience and intelligence than him had to actually look at the coin and see that there's a shape on the coin. There's a menorah, but also behind the menorah there's a shape. It looks like a big rock is what it looks like, when in actuality it's the map of ancient Israel, not today's Israel, but ancient Israel, the Israel that God had promised Abraham, and the covenant he had made with him, and all the borders contained within it. So in 1990, May 25th, the UN Security Council in Geneva heard this case that Yasser Arafat claimed that the design of this 10 Agar Rot showed a map of what he called Greater Israel that represented Zionist expansionist goals. In other words, the people who are Zionists that want to see Israel expand and want the Jewish people to come back into their nation, this was their proposed map of Israel. And it was very interesting because the Jewish lawyer that argued this case said, no, they simply got this map was from ancient Israel, and just argued from that point that it was simply a map from ancient Israel and it would look nice on the coin, when we know in truth that it will one day be the map of the future Israel. It's very exciting to think of. But again, you can look up that word Agar Rot and you can see a coin. Simply Google map, or not Google map, but Google image that word Agar Rot, and you will see what I'm talking about. You'll see the design of this coin. So the verdict over Sarah passed to Rebekah. We want to talk about that for a moment. The case, the decision, because again, we're speaking of the Torah as decisions, as verdicts that the Lord has made in his justice with Israel. And so the verdict over Sarah, that she would be the mother of nations and peoples, would be passed on to Rebekah. Genesis 24:60. And they blessed Rebekah and said to her, our sister. May you become the mother of thousands, of 10,000s, and may your descendants possess the gates of those who hate them. This is very interesting because here again, it's the mention of gates, which talks about courts, and it says decisions that have been against the Israeli people, that they will be reversed, and God will bless Israel, and all the blessings that have been promised to them will come. Psalm 65:4. Blessed is the man you choose and cause to approach you, that he may dwell in your courts. We shall be satisfied with the goodness of your house, of your holy temple. Daniel 7:9 says, I watched till the thrones were put in place, and the Ancient of Days was seated. His garment was like white as snow, and the hair of his head was like pure wool. His throne was a fiery flame, its wheels a burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. 1,000 thousands ministered to him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The court was seated, and the books were opened. The point is, you and I and our destiny are in these books that are opened in heaven. Jeremiah 1:4, Then the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you. I ordained you to the nations. And Psalm 139:16 says, Your eyes saw my substance, being yet unformed, and in your book they were written, the days fashioned for me, when as yet there were none of them. So you see, before the Lord ever even fashioned you, he knew you. Before he placed you in your mother's womb, he knew you. Are you striving to know him?